Last dev session of Connect right now. You're out of energy, you're tired, or are you excited? All right. You see some good technology? Yeah. Personally, I can't wait to get my hands on those new Oakley Vanguards. They look pretty sweet. I do water sports, stand-up paddleboard, windsurfing. I'm going to ask Meta AI for some tips on how to make my turns. Okay, so this is all about building next-generation worlds with Meta Horizon Studio and the new Meta Horizon engine. You heard Mark and Boz talk about these things. And we're just going to get right into it. Like, this talk should be worth your time. And it should be worth your time for a couple key reasons. This is the future of where we're taking the metaverse. Like, all of our new technology is going to be based on this tool set and this stack. And we're investing in this tech so that you can have even more creativity, that you can bring even bigger visions to life, bigger worlds, more people, more beautiful scenes. And that should build you bigger audiences and help you make more money, right? And we like that. And the other thing is, like, this should just indicate our commitment to all of this, right? So we're not just investing in the world's desktop editor, which has new features still coming out in the weeks to come, but we're also building the next generation. My name is Mike Arcuri. I'm a director of product here at Meta, and for the last 2 years or more, I've focused on this new studio and this new engine. I've been with Horizon longer than that, and before Horizon worked on Facebook games and also the very first Spark AR platform. So hopefully I'll be able to answer key questions for you. And I'm going to be joined halfway through by a developer who's had early access to these tools. So you're going to hear directly from the mouth of someone who knows. Okay, in terms of our agenda, we're going to do the sizzle reel. We're going to look at that next-gen content. That's the way we start. We're going to talk about why and when, right? When should you choose to build a world versus a standalone app or a game, right? I'll get into the key features of the studio, and we'll go through kind of point by point and compare them to the world's desktop editor. And then we'll spend a good 15 minutes on a developer retro with Playside Studios. We will talk about timeline to release, and then we'll have at least 10 minutes at the end for your questions. All right, so I said sizzle reel. And some of these things you've seen, 4 out of 5 of these worlds are live today. You saw the subtitles, right? So 160 people in that arena. Now, you've been to Music Valley. You know it can't hold more than 20, 24 people, right? The Bobber Bay game, the sequel, 5 times as many players. The Kaiju game, 6 times as many players. And the thing that's not in those slides is the frame rates are much better, even with these higher, like bigger scenes, more art, and higher player counts. Personally, I've been in Kaiju Evolution a lot, and it is like pure chaos, right? Because you can have 30 people, you can have 10 monsters at the same time. It's a lot of fun. Cool, so the reason we're building this, I mentioned raising the ceiling, right? Raising the ceiling on creativity. And Boz talked about this as well, right? It's so that the metaverse can be ever more attractive and compete for people's attention with all the other things that they can do. Right? But it's also so that we can bring you professional grade workflows. Now, some of you work in, companies, teams that they need source control, right? They need ways to publish to staging servers. They need ways to, really manage all of that content that's being created and make sure that your customers have stability all the time. And this tool set can bring you that. It's also our foundation for all the new tech, and I mentioned this before, right? But we've been talking about codec avatars and hyperscape photorealistic spaces at multiple connects now. They're going to be delivered on top of the Horizon engine, right? We've talked about generative AI and the vision for where to take that, so you could build whole worlds in an AI-first way. And the Meta Horizon Studio is going to be the foundation for that. So when you're thinking of a new project, right? I mean, I know a lot of people here are from the Horizon Creators Program. You're already building on Horizon, right? But some of you are probably Quest developers. Some of you are VR developers. And when you're trying to decide what's right for me, there are some real advantages to Worlds, right? You get that massively multiplayer core, like ready to go in a box. You can publish really easily. You get cross-platform really easily. You can iterate live with an audience, right? And you can be discovered in Instagram, in Facebook, in these surfaces where everyone has access to. But you don't have 100% control, right? If you want to have a premium experience, if you want to make a traditional game where people pay up front for X hours of gameplay, you're going to have to build standalone, right? And we have great support for Unity. We have great support for Android apps, and even WebXR. So there are other platforms when you need 100% control. In terms of how we establish our principles and like what guides us in building the studio, we want that core to be professional grade, and this means you have full control of the scene, full control of your assets. You can use standard formats. You can kind of go in and out of our tool and others, and we're going to show some examples of that in a minute. But on top of that, we aim for ease of use and accessibility, right? And so our asset library is layered on top of this professional core. Right? The generative AI work is layered on top of this core, right? So that's the way we kind of guide all our work, and optimizing for fast iteration and cross-platform play. So let's look at some clear examples. Okay, this is going to be the kaiju evolution scene. We're working in Blender. We're dragging out a street lamp from Blender, and we're making multiple copies of that street lamp in the scene, right? So you now have 2 street lamps here. Now we go back into the Blender window, and we're going to add a third lamp, or third light to the post, right? And what you'll see is when this is saved, all the lights in the scene update at the same time. Right? Yeah. So, we're thinking about being efficient here. We're thinking about your time and saving your time. And this is not just, meshes and textures. This is, sound files with Fmod. It's visual effects with popcorn effects, right? And even custom shaders. Okay, let's talk about lighting. So we do baked lighting now. So it means you can get great shadows, built into your scene, and kind of lit scenes. We do live preview of the effects, right? So you can see the aurora borealis moving a little bit here. This is one of the, desktop vistas for the new immersive home in VR. Look at the water. You see the water? So that's a live shader in a large world scene that we're building. And this jellyfish is visible in a concert, live in our new events arena, right? And so this kind of power is available to you now. For the first time ever, we have an animation graph built right in, right? So you can, all right, yeah. So you can bring in those Maya animations, right? But it's not just pick one and play it with script. You can blend between them. You can set your transitions. You want to fire an event to play the footfall sound when the foot touches the ground? You can do that now. It's all built into this animation graph. And the scripting is leveled up as well. So you can write custom components as TypeScript. You can have as many as you want attached to one entity. So no one script per entity limitation anymore, right? We have a player template or prefab. And so whenever a player joins a scene or joins a round, you want to put an attachable on the player. You want to create UI for that player. You have an anchor to write that script. And breakpoint debugging, the kinds of stuff that you need. Full networking controls for efficiency. Let's talk about UI. So we have a 100% new UI system for flat UIs. It's XAML-based. It has a WYSIWYG editor. You can have a UI designer or an artist make changes and play test them without a scripter or a coder helping them to publish those changes. Here we're working on this button that kind of powers up as you get kills in kaiju and lets you turn into the big monster. And you can see we've got a custom reticle, we've got custom buttons on the screen, we've got health bars and team health bars at the top. 30 players with custom UI in all these ways, less than 1 millisecond on the CPU thread per frame. So highly performant. You get frame precise control now. Yeah. And we talked about, pro workflows, right? So bring your own source control. You like Git? Use Git. You like Perforce, use Perforce. We will be integrating some packages directly into the editor so that artists don't stomp on each other, right? You'll know which files are locked and being edited by someone else. But you really can work just in the file system with your source control as well. So you could write Python scripts to modify your assets if you wanted to, if you're sophisticated. And multi-channel publishing. So no more making 20 clone worlds and renaming every clone world. You can have an alpha channel and publish your update and get your 10 friends to play test. And then you can have a staging server where you do your pre-prod testing before it goes live, and then keep your live world stable and good and working all the time. Performance tools. So yes, there is a much higher ceiling for performance, and you're seeing that in these example games. But there's going to be a moment when you hit the limit, right? You're going to put more art in the world. You're going to add more complex script. And so what we're doing now is giving you the ability to see exactly where in your playtest, where's the camera facing when I run too hot on the GPU thread? What is the scripted event that caused me to run out of memory? And then you can decide what to optimize. So it all starts with this understanding of what's causing that slowdown, right? And then, this one near and dear to my heart. So hopefully you came to the 2 p.m. presentation. There were some amazing demos of generative AI capabilities that are available now or coming soon. But we're going to keep investing here, right? We're going to keep working until you can start with AI, build a whole scene. Use the AI to build whole characters, speaking with backstories. Use the AI to add game mechanics. In this case, I think we're going to add a gun and some enemy spawns and start shooting at those enemies. Right? And this is where we want to go. The UI is not final, but expect that you'll be able to start with AI first in Meta Horizon Studio. OK, at this point, we get to the good part of the talk, right, where Jamie comes up and tells us what was it really like being the first independent developer to use Horizon Studio. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much, Mike. So Mike Meta's been really good. We got to get early access to the tools. And we are responsible for the Bobber Bay project. So I named this in the worst possible way. I have to get it right first try. We are building a bigger, better Bobber Bay. It worked in rehearsal. So firstly, just about Playside Studios. We're Australia's largest video game developer. We've got 3 studios down the east coast of Australia. And we've been working in virtual reality and mixed reality and even augmented reality for a very long time. We contributed to the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners series. We also recently released a mixed reality horror game called Shattered. We did a multiplayer party game called Dumbways Freefall. And we also we reimagined Civilization 7 for VR. So we've been in Horizon Worlds for a very long time. Who here worked in code blocks way back in the day? Yes. So we come from the dark ages. Now, obviously back then, everything was minigames, so very small form factor. And then we've moved forward. We were one of the first studios to use the FBXR pipeline. We modernized Arena Clash, and we built several companion worlds to that. We worked with Meta's Oro team, amazing team. And we helped them build Super Rumble Bots and Rocket Ruckus. And alongside that, we helped build the matchmaking tools. And we also were the first to market with an LLM character, which was Finn, the shopkeeper in Bobber Bay. So just in terms of how my section of this talk is structured, there's going to be a bit of A/B testing between. This is how we worked in the desktop editor. And this is what it looks like now in Meta Horizon Studio. So, at first we built Bobber Bay. It was a very novel experience. However, due to the player overhead, we couldn't fit many players in, but everyone sort of remembers it. I'm sure everyone's tried it at least once. And then we built a companion world called Gator Grotto. Now we're moving on to something called Salmon Springs. So, firstly, with the world's desktop editor, it's multiplayer out of the box. So, you can really rapidly prototype. You throw in some mechanics, hit play, everyone can play, everything works. There was a very, very low bar to understanding networking. It did just work. There were some caveats. because everything was sort of automated for you out of the box, there were some performance issues. We could only fit in so many players. And of course, everything on this platform is social first. You need that emergent social behavior that you get from effectively an MMO. So because of this, like as an example of one of these, side effects of automation, if we had 4 players, we had 4 copies of the user interface. Every event was networked. So this was a massive trade-off. Mike's team, took on board some feedback, and now everything is opt-in for networking. So this means we can have multiple UIs. They're per player, so not every individual player has a copy of everyone else's UI. And so far, we've tested it with 20 players. That's 5 times what we could get in the previous world. And that's been absolutely amazing. We're pretty sure we can do even more. There's just only so many devs in the room to actually go test this with. Now, obviously, more players means you need more space. So that can be a bit tricky. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, one of the really good benefits of the new engine is if you're doing opt-in for networking, you need to be able to test that, because if it's not out of the box, there's going to be some edge cases. There's a little bit more development work. So at least you can set the number of local instances you'd like to run, hit play, they're there. They're up on screen, all running locally. There's no deployment. There's no waiting for publishing to go test it. I don't have a whole room of devs scrambling to put on a headset so we'll get their phones ready to test. So this means we can iterate on code very quickly. It doesn't even need to go to QA before you get to that component. As a general rule, more iteration means higher quality. So effectively, we've been able to spend this on a larger space. So larger spaces mean more room for social behavior. And the additional overhead that we've gained has let us spend that additional performance where we want. More mechanics, more retention strategies, more UI. And that gives our design a lot more freedom to sort of build the game that they want to build. Now, one of the things, who here has actually played Bobba Bay? Hands up. All right. So one of the beautiful things of Bobba Bay was the boat. The problem is the boat was on rails. With the additional CPU overhead, we now have pilotable vehicles. So yes, one day we're going to have a jet ski, but that's coming in the future. But for now, there is a boat, and anyone can drive it. And then you can all jump on the boat. You can go find fish out in the world. It's very cool. This actually just was not practical. We had built vehicles, but it just wasn't going to work at scale with the number of players we had. Now, UI. We've all dealt with UI, with the custom UI in the desktop editor. It was very good as a first proof of concept on this platform. But as we look to a future with deeper retention mechanics, this is our fish decks, and the more fish you add, the more items you need. Like trying to make this system scroll, that's a challenge. So effectively, we were running up against the limit in terms of how much we could put into this UI. With Meta Horizon Studio, of course, as Mike mentioned earlier, I don't want to be too redundant in saying the exact same things again, but we now have a what you see is what you get editor. When he mentioned that you don't have to have engineering, if you have a game with a large amount of UI, and as we move into a more freemium or free-to-play model, we're going to need a lot more UI. The lack of a dependency chain and having an engineer for implementation is massive. So I've actually witnessed this firsthand. We brought over an engineer from one of our other projects, a front-end designer, designed it, popped it in, 20 minutes, worked. So imagine that in the previous engine, bit of a struggle. So the next one. Yes, as Mike mentioned, we now have shaders, but in the previous engine we did not. So there were some trade-offs. If you go sufficiently stylized, you can build a very pretty world, but you have to stylize in a particular way to work with the art constraints you've got. We didn't have LODs, so the worlds were limited, polycounts, etc. We didn't have a collision culling. So you could build optimization systems, but they were very custom. It would take quite a bit of time, and the ROI was not always that obvious. We have all those now. So that is now amazing. Now, level streaming is a super important part of the Horizon Studio performance component because it drops loading time significantly. Like, we have found that players tend to drop off due to loading time. That is largely mitigated now. The loading time is significantly lower. Live profiling has allowed our artists to sort of optimize really well. And local files in Git is huge because when you have a world that's 5 times larger and suddenly we go, oh, we have a new lab bake, you've got to import it all, and that can be hundreds of meg. So being able to do that locally, very quickly, is massive art. Again, iteration means quality. So that's working really well. Now, because our studio Playside, we have multiple different art pipelines depending on the technology that we're ultimately outputting to. So we have a lot of bespoke tools we've written for Maya, we use Blender, we use 3D Max, we use a whole pile of different 3D software. It's all just plugged straight into this, and we have custom editor tooling now. So you can largely automate away a lot of the standard headaches with any platform that you always have, regardless of the engine. This allows you to build those tools in-house. Now, it's a fishing game. 50% of all time is spent looking at the water. At the time when we built this, this was revolutionary for the platform. I know. Now we have actual shaders. They're custom shaders. They're written in a variation of HLSL sort of system. And we can do Fresnel, we can do specular, we can do cube maps, we can do whatever we need. And it's actually just added a huge amount of visual fidelity to the game overall. Again, I don't want to be too redundant and sort of mention what Mike has already mentioned, but local files in Git now means we can have multiple teams working in parallel. So we can have a team working on the boat feature, we can have a team working on rod progression or whatever upcoming features we have, and then they can all do the merge battle at the end. It is still game dev, but at least that can now be done in parallel. As everyone remembers from the desktop editor, you're looking at 30 worlds and someone copy-pasting between them. A lot of sweat and tears back in the day. And here's another one. Now, Mike mentioned it, but the ability to have multiple release channels is huge because if you give a build to a stakeholder, let's say, I don't know, me, I don't want everything covered in debug buttons, but QA need everything covered in debug buttons. But then when we give to our partners at Meta, they want some of them. That can now just all be automated. It just pops out of the right Git branch. We're all good to go. It's actually really good. It becomes very important for us now with asset templates because we will be supporting Bobber Bay, Gator Grotto, and Salmon Springs. So if you have all these shared components, rods, buckets, boats, whatever you're building, build it once, deploy across multiple worlds. At scale, we can now build much larger games with significantly lower overhead. So we'll talk about player prefabs. Now, this isn't, I know it's an odd slide. The actual player prefab itself, it's just a big component tree. It's not the most visually exciting thing. So this is Joshua from a live event we did in Bobber Bay. Now, who here is familiar with object pools? All right, so one of the biggest issues we have with the desktop editor, of course, is when I spawn, we've got a whole row of rods and buckets sitting in the world, and they go, oh, there's a player, I attach. Amazing. If that player drops, when the next player joined, it wasn't always guaranteed they would get their rod and bucket. A fishing game, if you have no rod, is not a great experience. Now, the new system is really beautiful in that every player joins, that prefab is guaranteed to spawn what it's meant to spawn. So what used to be a massive headache for all of us is now gone. So reliability is incredibly important. And again, if you're making systemic game changes, like if we make a change to this world, it's just going to work in every world that utilizes that template. Now, Mike ever so quietly mentioned Fmod. That's actually a much bigger feature than you think it is. Anyone who's built a world with a significant amount of audio knows that audio in the desktop editor was not super performant, and it was effectively just to play a WAV, out it would come. With Fmod, you can throw proper audio engineers at it. They can do spatial effects, ambisonic effects. You can have proper cross-fading. You can have parameterized audio, pitch shifting, things that are tied to, weapons, rods, Doppler. It's all there. It's all out of the box. And again, we don't need an engineer sitting in the middle handling the implementation of it. So it's very, very cool. So I'm going to show you like a little 30-second snippet. This isn't out just yet. It's coming very soon. Turns out the boats are a little flaky, but they're coming very soon. But yeah, I can't wait for all of you to actually get your hands on these tools yourselves, which Mark will be talking about in a second, because everyone is going to make some really amazing stuff that we've never seen on this platform before. But until then, let's watch some Sun Springs. And now I'll pass it over to Mike.
Thanks, Jamie. This stuff looks I'm not sure if I'm on. Thank you, Jamie. This stuff looks really great. OK, I promised a timeline. Here's what I can actually deliver for you. Right now, we have 4 worlds live that are running on Meta Horizon Engine, right? And this means all the other thousands of worlds were built in the world's desktop editor. And they're running side by side. And that's important, right? Because it means nobody is going to be forced to migrate immediately, or there's not going to be like a ticking clock. Like there's going to be plenty of time. You can choose to finish. You should finish all your existing projects in World's Desktop Editor. But if you've got a new idea, a bigger idea, something you want to do next year, well, you can do that now. You can do that now, right? So applications are open for beta today. This has been true for a few hours. I'm going to show the QR link on the next slide. And what you have to do is scroll all the way down that developer page, and then there's a button there, and then there's a form to fill out. One thing I do want to do is set your expectations. We're going to be letting people into beta in part based on their kind of professional grade experience, right? Because the documentation isn't finished yet, right? There are still some bugs and rough edges, right? And so we're going to look for a small group of early beta testers who can give us great feedback. And then the point is to bring all of this to general availability as soon as we can. We are committing to do that in 2026. I can't yet tell you exactly what the target date is. But our idea is to do that as soon as the quality is there, that we can bring you these tools. So that's what's coming up. Here's that QR code. And there are signups happening already. It's not a race. We're going to be reviewing these things over the coming weeks. So take your time. It's always a race, he says. Yeah. Cool. OK, so that is where we are. And we have 16 minutes left to answer questions. So actually, good job finishing a little faster than in practice. All right. Oh, 2 microphones. There's one on the right side and one on the left side. So you do have to stand if you want to ask a question so that everyone can hear.
And bonus points for beatboxing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do it. Will I get into beta?
Beatbox your way into beta. I like that. Yeah. Please go ahead.
All right. So you had when you were comparing and contrasting the Horizon Worlds editor experience with the Studio experience, you had indicated like one of the problems in Worlds was the lack of occlusion culling. And then you said all these things are now working. So does that mean that we have occlusion culling now in the Horizon engine?
I think the technical answer is no, but probably what Jamie and his team have been experiencing is such a higher performance profile that they can just do way more. So I don't know that we're actually doing occlusion culling in a technical sense.
We've technically built it ourselves. It's not actually out of the box. It's a very gross form of just large collision triggers that work that way. But at least that's performant enough, and because that's local, it's not causing any network delays.
Excellent. What we do have is sub-scene definition, and we only load the scene that's necessary for the spawn point. And then we can dynamically load, in the middle of a world session, any other sublevels and assets.
And those are loaded per player.
Yes, that's right. And we also do hot LOD swapping, right? So you can have 5 different LODs, and we will do that dynamically for each player. Yeah. Why don't we go to this side? Thank you.
Absolutely. Hello. So my question is this. You talked about with the new engine, we have 160 people in a shared arena. So if we're doing an event, will we also have access to video to do a concert like that?
Yeah, so I mean, this is not like a promise with a date on it, but it is our intent to make that arena available, so that we can host more and more types of events with video on the screen. Yeah. So you should look forward to that kind of thing in the future. But again, I can't give you like a precise date when that would be available.
Yeah, you say you can host, but can us developers host? So let's say we have artists that we want to project. Can we put up a pay gate, advertise, have the event, have the whole environment?
Yeah, this is something we've talked about. We'll take this as a feature request, though. You like to charge for tickets for your event that you host. Is that?
I believe
did I got
people
that?
will want to do that.
Yeah,
the
no,
crowds right there.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a good request. Thank you.
And yep, that was it.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
Hi, I asked this in the summit, but also kind of, do you guys have in the plans for PPVs, player persistent variables, to be accessible on both platforms?
Yes. So this doesn't work yet, but it is our intent that you could have, say, an HUR world and community, and then access those same world state variables or player state variables from a new world that's built with the Horizon Studio. Yeah.
I'll just follow up to that. We
Yeah.
need it because I can't have fishing players go over and go, where's all my fish at? So, yes, I'm nagging Mike for that.
Yeah. Cool. Please go ahead.
So, hi, I'm Marcelo. So
Marcelo.
the jumping tech is pretty nuts, but it comes to me with concern about Q&A. Because since you guys improved so much in the tech, I kind of ask myself, what's the new backend device? Because the minimal user device is really important for UGC. So do you guys have like a benchmark for the lowest device that can run it?
Yeah, we are still testing on Quest 2 and making sure that these worlds run on Quest 2. In fact, the worlds that are live today, Kaiju Evolution, the new Horizon Central, the Events Arena, they were made available to Quest 2 users. When it comes to mobile phones, we are, at this point, still cloud streaming the mobile experience, so the exact device doesn't matter, unless it has a really crappy video decoder. That could be a problem. But in the future, we're going to be doing mobile native versions of this engine, right? So that will be, pixel perfect graphics, no video compression artifacts, and no additional lag for the input to the render back. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding, because you're moving to the new engine and the new studio, I'm wondering if there are going to be some more feature parity between the features we have in standalone Horizon OS apps, like stuff in Unity, presence platform, co-location, stuff like that. Are there plans to integrate those into the studio and the engine? And my second question is, I know Worlds is kind of like a closed system, but will we be able to make API calls or calls outside of the system?
Okay, so two questions. So your first question, will Quest APIs and libraries be made available to Horizon Worlds? This is something we talk about. I can't, commit to anything today, but I think you've probably seen from us in the past, we had a mixed reality playground with the pass-through. Also, sometimes people control their devices just with their hands and without using the held controllers. So these are the types of things that we would eventually want them in Horizon. We just don't have a timeline to give you. Remind me of your second question.
Calling external APIs or URLs for accessing backend as a service.
Yeah, so we're held to a pretty high privacy standard for user data, and that's the main reason we haven't done this yet. It's a trade-off, right? Like I was involved in cloud games being hosted in Facebook app, for example. We had to put up a privacy notice and get explicit user consent for any game that the person played because of this, because they could record your session and send data to a different analytics package or store it offsite, that kind of thing. So, it's a friction. It would be friction for the user if we allowed for these API calls, and that's why we haven't quite decided if it's a good idea yet or not.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Wojtek from Coffee Cup. I wonder, in that new engine, will it be possible to create editor extensions and scripts, something that could allow us to create our own tools to make life better?
Yeah, we would like to do that. We have an engineering director who leads part of this project who would really like to do that. We don't have a date for you yet on that. So it won't be available by beta for sure, but it may come after that point. Yeah.
All right.
I'm also asking for it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Okay. Question on this side, I guess. On bigger bobberfish, trying to say it. What are with the new engine? There is like a lot of showing, like they can generate environments, objects, scripts, everything with prompts like GenAI. So a two-part question. One is like, how much were you able to take advantage of this to be able to deliver the world a little faster, a little more efficient, just with less work? And a second part of a question, GenAI or not GenAI related, from the current very early alpha for Studio, what are the current pain points for development?
Okay, the primary pain point for us is that we're building a game with the engine being built underneath us. So that's always...
We changed the API on them a couple times. Yeah.
That's always going to be fun. No, so Bubble Bay was built without any Gen AI because the Gen AI tools are still very fresh, and we started development quite some time ago. So it's good old-fashioned dev for Bubble Bay. But in the future, I would love to just go generate thousands of fish because fish take actually quite a lot of time to design. So yeah, that would be amazing. But no, we haven't utilized any of that technology yet.
And for the second part of the question, from the current state of the studio, what are current pain points for development?
The current pain point for development is just the fact that some components of the engine are not finished and are sort of beta. So our primary issue right now is actually being builds. Sometimes they're just a little unreliable, but because we're all in a Git workflow, that doesn't stop development. It just... we don't get to play a build on that particular day. So not too bad so far.
Yeah.
Depending who on the team you ask.
Please go ahead.
The question I did forget was, you showed there was standalone and what was the meta. So with the new editor, we can also create our own standalones?
No. So the Meta Horizon Studio is just to build worlds. So worlds at their core are just the data of the game. The runtime engine is not something that you can compile into an Android app and ship separately. So yeah, at this point, if you choose to build in Studio, you're building a world. But you can use some of the things that Boz and Samantha Ryan mentioned this morning, like the Unity plugins, for example, and build a standalone Quest app instead if that's a better fit for your needs. Yeah, but my point here is like, we're certainly not abandoning any of the existing development paths. Like people build Unity games today, they build Unreal games today, they build custom apps today and ship them on Quest. You can absolutely keep doing that in the future. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are there any ongoing efforts to explore bringing Horizon Worlds to other platforms like game consoles?
Well, I mentioned that we deliver to mobile devices in a cloud-streamed way, right? And it's possible, it's feasible that we could deliver to, say, an Xbox platform or other kinds of smart TVs, in a similar way. But we don't have a timeline and a roadmap for that at this time.
Okay, and similarly, any gamepad support?
No current plans for gamepad support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I got two questions. I know at the summit they were talking about VR or being able to enter VR and preview the world. You won't be able to do that, I guess, with the studio. So, what did you guys do to test in VR? My first question. Second question is, will assets be able to work in studio, especially they have gizmos attached to them and stuff?
Why don't I start, and then you can talk about testing. Okay, so one thing, you can absolutely view your world, visit your world, test your world in VR, even if you build with Meta Horizon Studio. What you can't do is you can't build it in VR. You have to build it with Windows Meta Horizon Studio. on a Windows computer, right? So you build, and then you can either use a cable and Quest Link, or you could just hit publish and keep it to that alpha channel that we were talking about, and have a few of you can test it in VR over the air. So that's all possible, but you can't
like, go up in the air.
Right, you can't become big and edit things. You can't spawn new objects. There's no like in VR creator mode for Studio, not at this time. Yeah.
I'll say a very similar thing, but from the developer perspective. I know he's a developer. I mean, like from trying to build a game with it. I've had years of people sitting in a headset developing games for 10 hours a day. It's a bit stressful for people, and it's very, very headache-inducing. In terms of you still develop just on a flat screen, you hit play, it just works out of the box. There's no, the friction point is like 5 seconds. It's very fast. If you're doing a long-haul design, you don't really want people in headset for 10 hours a day. So that does just work. In terms of the question about assets, still supports FBX. You can just drag things in, drag in textures. It's just now you can also go build custom shaders if you so want to. There's a pile of very good shaders out of the box. So I won't talk about any sort of automated conversion of the worlds, but for us, moving assets over is drag into a different editor, tick box. Like it's just working.
But the gizmos, like, are they... They're totally new gizmos, or?
Yeah, so we don't actually use gizmos anymore, but you could use similar things, like if you needed a mirror or a gun that shoots, we could have similar things in our asset library, but they would be called templates now, right? So they would come with a piece of a scene hierarchy, they would have some scripts, they would have some art attached, and you would just use those in your scene. So let's say you made a lot of art with the world's desktop editor, and you wanted to reuse some of that art. Like Jamie says, there's probably no problem. You can import that art into a new project with Studio. But if you were using a gizmo for a specific need, like a gun, no, you would have to leave that behind and find the new thing in the Meta Horizon Studio asset library that is a template for a gun. Yeah.
So like particle launcher. Like what,
Yeah,
what does that look like?
Oh, particles? Yeah.
Like a particle launcher. Like what does that look like in Studio?
Yeah. Well, you would still be able to search, right, and find something and kind of drag it into your scene. It just wouldn't be a gizmo. Like the technology is different. Right?
It's also, just in terms of particles in the more art sense, it's also still using popcorn effects. So you get all of that out of the box as well.
But thanks for your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is somewhat of a follow-on to that about the VR layout. So one of the things that with the existing desktop editor is very hard to do is to do the actual layout in 3D because there's insufficient snapping, there's insufficient orthographic views, there's insufficient just being able to tell where things actually are, and you actually lay things out, and then when you actually look at it in 3D, it's like things are off or not connected. And so people would resort often to going to VR just to do the layout. And so with that going away, with no ability to resort to VR just to do the layout portion, how was the experience using the studio to do layout when you had no recourse to do the layout in VR?
It's much more like standard game development in other game engines. So like a large amount of our art team will actually go white box. We just import the assets. Designers move things around in editor, top view orthographic, that's all there. And then it just kind of works. It's not really anything that's come up as a pain point relative to the, it's because we've all, our studio uses Unreal and Unity for other projects. The time to learn has been days, not weeks. So it's been very, very easy for us to move teams over.
Just to be sure you heard 1 or 2 points there, though. There is an orthographic view in Meta Horizon Studio, and we do have a first version of object snapping. It doesn't have every single edge and corner yet.
The edge and corner
snapping.
Yeah,
we could keep making it better.
In the old editor, and it made it very, very hard.
This guy here has clearly had some trauma.
I had to go with headset just for that.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Frank. I've been working on our VR game, Little Planet, for 4 years.
Oh.
I would like to learn your suggestion because we develop on Unity. Right now, there's a new engine, new studio. What's your suggestion strategically? How can we leverage our past experience? And should we wait for, say, another 6 months before the studio getting matured? Yeah, what's your suggestion?
I'll go first.
Well, I mean, yeah, you
I'll go
game
first.
dev to game dev.
Yeah, I'll go. Is it multiplayer?
It is multiplayer.
How good is your team at multiplayer?
Say it again?
How good is your team at multiplayer? Because at scale, he's done all the hard work. If for another studio, depending on the sort of game you're building, like, I've worked on quite a few multiplayer games in my day. Is it, authoritative? Does it need to be deterministic?
Well,
or
we
whatever?
use Photon Fusion.
Photon. Yeah.
Photon Fusion.
Photon Fusion, yes.
Yeah.
So Photon Fusion is it's very efficient, it's very fast, it's got the what's it called? Replay physics system that simulates forward.
Yep.
It's very good. You'll find that the tools in the new engine are not quite on parity, but all of the problems are sort of solved out of the box. And when you first get new devs, you're deploying new people who could be newer to game dev, or they've come from that single player background. Teaching them how to do multiplayer is quite a switch. You go, you really got to get your foundations right, otherwise you really burn yourself.
That's right.
The other component of working with Worlds is there's an ecosystem there that just kind of works out of the box. You've got visibility, you've got players coming in, there's a monetization strategy that's sort of there out of the box. There's a whole, sort of ecosystem there. If you're doing a standalone, marketing's on you, right? You've got to go push that, and it can be quite difficult to push people into the platform at scale, especially for smaller developers. That's strategically, would you do it today? Well, I'd sign up to the beta and maybe do an evaluation first, but I'd definitely be considering it.
Yeah, you can read more about our engagement bonus structure, right? In-world purchases, and you can kind of think about the economics and what your hopes are for your game. And like Jamie said, are you going to spend a lot on marketing and charge up front? Then keep it a standalone app. If in-world purchases and engagement and discovery on social media, if that's good for you, then maybe a world makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey.
Test.
There we go. Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you. Couple really quick ones. First, I know that Git is a great option, but I haven't done it yet, so I need to learn. But my question is, out of the box, what is the scripting like? So if I have 2 or 3 people open up the new engine or the studio, and one person's editing a script, what happens just by default?
Yeah, so out of the box, the one engineer that was changing some scripts, it would only be done on his own machine until the point when he published, and then it would be in the cloud, right? Okay. So really you should choose, a lot of these packages are free. You really should choose a package if you want to manage your merges and have a good workflow. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
It's not like we all work on the same cloud backend anymore.
Yeah, so for reference, in Desktop Editor, it's instantaneous.
That's right, it's not like that now.
Yeah.
You save when you want to save. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Yep. The second question is for, my understanding is if you want to test it in VR while you're working on it, you can hardwire in, put the VR headset on, not too bad. What if you have multiple people online at the same time? Is there a way for them to test multiplayer without having to publish?
Well, no, I would actually recommend in that case that you do a quick publish. You set up a channel where only 10 people can access. You do a quick publish, and it should be a few minutes, and then people can all test over the air.
Yeah,
Right.
not too bad.
Spicy answer, you can do it locally.
Okay.
It's not a feature that he's actually offered. We had to do it for a lot of the gameplay capture. So you can do it. It's not easy at the moment, but you could.
There might be a hacker. You talk to Jamie afterwards about
I'm a hacker too.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, Dominic Frederick. So I'd like to just ask about optimization and the building process. In the video, you showed that you were creating an instance, or I assume it's an instance when you were duplicating the lamp. And also, are you sharing textures and materials? Are you creating that within the Horizon Studio, or are you still relying on external applications to kind of do the heavy work?
Yeah. Jami, would you like to talk about the difference between textures and materials and what's shared and what's not shared? So Jami's one of our technical artists. He's been working for years in the new format.
There's different ways you can do it. You can share your textures and material. You can bring your material from your DCC, but also you can create your material asset in the editor. And there you can assign it to actually many different assets. So you have different ways that way. You can share material, you can customize them. You can even do overrides on templates and instance. So you have way more power that way.
with inside the desktop? Oh, excuse me, can you group like with inside the Horizon Studio?
Yes. You can't texture inside. You have to bring your texture from outside, but the materials themselves, you can assign them on parts, on material inside the Horizon Studio.
Yeah, and obviously you can create folders and scene hierarchies and group
Now
things.
the project is like you can do it like however you want to organize it yourself. It's not forced.
Okay, thanks.
That's right. One of the new features for scripts is folders.
That's right. That's right. Organize everything. Yeah.
Hey guys, about physics, that you didn't touch it. What kind of new physics you using, and how many? Are there any limitation? Can I create physics sandbox or something?
So, I mean, physics runs at the same cadence as render frames. So you can put as many physics objects in until you start dropping your render frames, and then you'd probably want to reduce that at that point. Simplify your colliders. I don't know. Jamie, do you know more?
It's kind of tricky for us because we really only, like, our fish are actually locally simulated because remember everything's sort of opted in for networking, so that state serialization is kind of up to you. So if you want to do larger amounts of physics, you will probably eventually hit an issue. A boat is actually quite simple in terms of big box move forward, and it's constrained. Well, okay, there was this one issue where the boat did fly into space, but when we fixed that, it's just really a 2D plane system. So the general rule of thumb with game dev generally is try not to overutilize the physics system out of the box, because that's where you get those edge cases that are a nightmare to fix. And that's not this engine, that's every engine.
All right. We have run to the end of time. I guess we do like 2 more questions just to run over a little bit. Yeah, please go ahead.
This might be a loaded question, but for the public asset library, now, is there going to be one in beta? Is it going to be built into the engine, or is it going to be external from the engine, kind of like Unity's asset store? And will people be able to sell assets?
Yeah, so you will have an asset library in beta. The assets will be populated by Meta at that point. We don't yet have a date when you'd be able to sell your own assets for other creators to use, but it is something we discuss on the team as part of the roadmap process. Yeah. So yeah, feel free. You could talk to Kristen after or something.
And no way to. It won't be external. Okay. It will be internal, like it is on HUR today. Or yeah.
Oh right. You don't have to go in a browser separately. It'll be right there. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So we are currently building a mobile world. And the thing that has been a bit frustrating is how we cannot really tweak how the camera and controls, how they work. Do you think in this engine it's going to be possible to have more liberty, to more freedom on how we can tweak the camera, and maybe having something such as Cinemachine in Unity where we can actually have cutscenes and like actually move the camera and use that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any problem with moving cameras and controlling the camera. There are certain user expectations, like locomotion should generally work the same way game to game. I don't know if we'll be able to support multiple cameras. Like someone in a different session had asked about mini maps and things like that. Like, could they create 2 cameras and use one as a mini map? And there, obviously there are big performance implications for doing those kinds of things. So we don't currently plan to support multiple cameras. But yeah, I would love to get like more detail. Maybe talk to you after about what you'd like to do with the camera, and we can then take that back to the team.
Thank you.